So much to say, so little time here on the day before Memorial Day. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. This is the DPB show. Hey, I always appreciate you guys tuning in. Obviously, if you guys don't tune in and you don't support our advertisers, well, then they would probably say there's really no need for me. Maybe my dog would still like me, but hey, like I said, so much to say, so little time. Let's just get right to it. Here we are the day before Memorial Day, and the only thing I can say about my feelings towards Memorial Day is this, that there is, and you've heard it before if you've listened to my show over the past couple of years, no greater love is there than this. This comes from John's Gospel, the 15th chapter, the 13th verse. There is no greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. That's what we are celebrating here this Memorial Day and every Memorial Day. I know there's some confusion in the public at times, and you and myself obviously are guilty of it because we want to acknowledge and to celebrate our armed forces, the men and women who've served our country. But the Memorial Day holiday is set aside specifically for those who have served our country in all of the different branches of the armed services and yet never returned home, or they did return home, unfortunately, in a flag-draped casket. That's what Memorial Day is about. Yes, it's great to acknowledge anyone who has served, but that's why we have Veterans Day, because then we cover veterans, anyone who has served. But today, or I should say tomorrow, today, obviously the day before Memorial Day, a sacred holiday, in my book at least, we acknowledge those who gave it all. I know that many of you have heard that some all gave some, but some gave it all. There are only two people who have been willing to give it all. One, Jesus Christ. He gave it all for our spiritual freedom. We heard Pastor Timothy James Farrell alluding to that in the last half hour of his programming, The Victorious Life. So Jesus gave it all. And that's where that comes from in the gospel. There is no greater love than this. But the American soldier, the American sailor, the American airman, the American National Guard, I don't know what you refer to them as other than National Guard. And now we have Space Force. Those who gave it all in the line of freedom's sake, that's why they gave it. They gave it for our national freedom. If not for them, we would not be able to enjoy this holiday, this time where we take and gather together with family and we go to swimming pools because historically, Memorial Day has always marked the opening of summer. But really what today, or I should say this weekend, is about those flag-draped caskets. I know here locally, we continue to remember Joshua Roberts, graduate of Normal Community High School. His mom, Vonda, has been on my program on Memorial Day. Josh was killed in Afghanistan in the line of duty, a very young man. But Josh didn't go. He went there knowing the risks that he could encounter fire. He could encounter a conflict, armed conflict, and he might not return. He was trained for that. But he also was a very faithful young man, and he knew that the good of many supersedes the wants and the needs of a few select people. So, like I said, so much to say today, so little time. I do want to put a plug in for Vonda, though, before I move on too quickly. Vonda Rogers is a Gold Star mom. Obviously, those parents who have had to bury their children, first and foremost, no matter what the reason, that in of itself is just mind-blowing. I can't even begin to wrap my head around it as a parent of two daughters. But to have to bury your son or daughter who was killed in the line of duty, whether that would be through the armed services, through the first responders, that in of itself, when they are out there putting their life on the line, they are sacrificing it all. So you and I can live as we live. There is no greater country than the United States of America. And for those that don't believe that, well, let me just educate you on this. I know there might be a few out there listening, and we always know we have our P1 hecklers out there. So we'll go ahead and inform you of this. Tell me another country where people are literally invading the border in order to participate in that way of government. I'm waiting. Our chat is open. Please fill in the chat. Let me know. That in of itself, and just that point in of itself, is the reason that I know there is no greater country than the United States of America. Long-standing, historically, no country that I know of has done more for the world economy than the United States of America. Philanthropically, giving, donating, there is no country that has more people through NGOs supporting other nations as far as poverty, as far as schooling, education, hospitalization. We are the leader. And that's, kind of what saddens me today. Here we are the day before Memorial Day, where we will honor and celebrate those who paid it all. And during this weekend, we also settle things like raising our national debt limit, settling a, who knows, 5,000 page statewide budget, which now has gone up in the course of 6 years. 6 years. The time that I entered the fray of the political world, meaning as a candidate, that was my first run back in 2017. I announced that I would run for state representative here locally. That year, it was an impasse, a budget impasse. They were gridlocked. They weren't getting anywhere. That year, the statewide budget was $32 billion in spending. The bill that was just signed into law just this past Friday or Saturday. I guess it was Saturday morning, early, 2:30 in the morning. Because once again, Kevin, that's when they do these things, right? In the dark of night,
Yep.
Under the cover of the beautiful dome down in Springfield. All those pages. No one knew what was in that bill. They were scrambling just to figure out the skeletal approach that the governor and his team were putting forth to vote on, which once again, it's purely an exercise in futility. The governor has a 78 to 40 advantage in the House and a 51 to 18 advantage in the Senate. Did I do my math right? Yes. 59 is half of 118. Mm-hmm. They know that they're passing that bill. But let me get back to what that bill was. Over $50 billion in spending. And I love it when the governor wants you to know that he has balanced the budget. What does it mean to balance a budget? It means that you're going to spend everything that you've allocated to spend. What good is that when you have billions in dollars in interest accruing every year in the pension debt that has now, according to some, they say it exceeds $300 billion. I think I hear the number about $160 billion, but I think there's a lot of other ancillary spending that goes on, unfunded mandates that kind of get bulked in with that. Everything gets thrown in there, right? I was looking at something on Chris Miller, State Representative Chris Miller's Facebook page this morning, And you might have heard this already, that $300,000 was line item to be sent to Lake County for the Lake County Black Lives Matter Initiative, or as some refer to it, Building Larger Mansions Initiative. $300,000 in the Lake County area. And it's just not Lake County. There's 102 counties. There's 152 school districts. I know that one particular state senator who happens to be on my side of the aisle. Well, I say my side of the aisle, Christian conservative. I usually vote Republican. I would love to vote for a Democrat if one of them would step forward and truly show the leadership that I'm looking for. Unfortunately, there's some big issues that they're not willing to, it's just too big of a chasm for them to cross. But I usually vote as a Republican. And one particular Republican state senator has come out and said that she thought that there was something good about the budget, and that happened to be the K through 12 spending. So more money allocated for the Illinois State Board of Education. I don't even know how any Republican currently representing that super minority I just spoke about in any conscious level think that there's anything good about that budget. And to repeat that via social media or even in any kind of discussion. You know, one of the things I do here is common ground. And sometimes these sympathizers, they want to find common ground. There is no common ground when they have run the table for close to 37 years. We have not had a balanced budget in the state of Illinois since 2001. If you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, I am David Paul Blumenshine. This is the DPB show. We appreciate you tuning in. Yes, as I led off saying, if you didn't hear it, so much to say, so little time, especially on this Sunday before Memorial Day. And you know what? I hope that you enjoy this Memorial Day weekend. But more importantly, I hope you go out and you find one of those veterans who died in the line of duty. You can go out to the Evergreen Cemetery. I know that there's a lot of activity going on throughout town. We're going to get the details up. There's going to be a flyover. In fact, that might have already occurred. But go out and acknowledge and celebrate. I think that's tomorrow. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I think it's tomorrow, too.
See, Kevin, I get going. And
we'll get a call from Butch Exton at some point, I'm sure.
Your mic's not on, though. You know
it's not. I know. I'm just talking to you.
You can't hardly hear you. So Kevin's over across the way.
I'm just talking to you. I didn't need everybody else to know what I was saying, DPB. I was just talking to you.
Well, it's kind of disconcerting when I have nothing coming through my ear. You know, I kind of function based on my earphones, Kevin. But Kevin, obviously, across the way, always here with me on Sundays, will be coming on for 2 hours after my 2-hour segment, or 2-hour show, with Speechless. And I'm going to give him an opportunity to kind of tell you a little bit about the ground he's going to cover today, the day before Memorial Day. But I kind of got lost a little bit with this particular state senator who happens to be a Republican. And there's not only just state senators, there's House representatives. And it really saddens me. It saddens me for the sake of freedom. And you think that might be a bold statement, but it does. We cannot be free. We cannot be a free state, a free nation, when we are truly imprisoned by the debt. You know, when we look at the national debt approaching $32 trillion, 32 trillion T. It's not billion, it's trillion. Trillion with a T. There's no possible way, barring a magnificent discovery via technology or something else that would bail us out of the debt that we're in. And I'm not saying that can't happen. We are a nation that has always been on the cutting edge of everything. But we continue to put that burden on the taxpayer. so true in the state of Illinois. Our freedom as a free state cannot be realized until we acknowledge that we've got a problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And that's the way it is at the national level. Obviously, I hear that Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy came to some agreement. I'm sure it's not enough to address the waste, the craziness. This is where the corruption really comes full circle. We are here to fight corruption. I am here to denounce corruption and to expose the light on this corruption. Hey, so much to talk about. Like I said, we've got a big show. We've got Ray Estrada, who has announced he's running for Congress in the 17th Congressional District. I've got Susan Mantell from over in Champaign. She is the county chair over there, leading up the Lincoln Day dinner, where they will have Brandon Straka as their keynote speaker. And then finally, I got Senator / former gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey in studio with us to talk about the craziness of what just happened Saturday morning down in Springfield. Hey, stay tuned. And obviously, we always appreciate when you come back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
All right, now you're still live on Facebook.
Okay.
And not just Facebook, you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble.
All right. Let me get up here in the camera. Thank you.
Remember, still use the mic.
I will do that. I got eyes. Kevin, you've got me set up over here. Usually I am sitting stage left over here. But now we got two fancy cameras, high-tech cameras that do pick up a lot more. I'm really impressed, aren't you, Kevin? So we've got two deluxe cameras. Obviously, we're continuing to move the needle on, really accelerating our platform, our radio station into the movement that started here a couple of years ago, into the streaming of live Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube. Kevin does Twitch. I have no idea. I guess I
barely know, David.
He doesn't. He says he doesn't know. But let's see here real quick. In the chat, we've got a few of our. Oh yes, I've always Pam. Thank you for always being part of it. And as my beautiful wife says in the chat, if you're joining us on Facebook Live, she is obviously always my stalwart listener. I can always count on my wife. I will have one listener always, and Pam. Thank you, Pam. But she says that's our children and grandchildren's money, and I'm going to hit upon that when we come back a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about that with Darren Bailey and with Ray Estrada. Ray is really just an amazing human being. I had a sit down with him about a month and a half ago. I was really impressed with Ray and his effort to be willing, because it is a sacrifice. It's not quite the sacrifice when you are serving in the armed services in a conflict and obviously giving up your life. But you do put your life on hold when you decide to enter the fray of the political world. I mean, they're going to gut Ray Estrada. Not literally, but figuratively. Looks like we're coming back on here, so I'm going to get to that. I'm just nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. This is the DPB show. Hey, and if you're just tuning in, you have timed it perfectly. This is a big weekend, and this weekend could not be the weekend it is without the sacrifice of those who gave it all. In fact, I was reading from John's Gospel. It's one of my favorite verses because ultimately it says everything. John's Gospel, the 15th chapter, 13th verse. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You know, you are my friends. And that's not only Jesus paid the ultimate price for our spiritual freedom, but our American soldiers and sailors and airmen, they paid the ultimate price when they gave their lives in service. Not meaning that they served, because that's a whole different component. That's what Veterans Day is about. Veterans Day is where we acknowledge those who have served our country and either have died in the line of duty or came home. Memorial Day is a day we set aside specifically for those who went and served our country and unfortunately, due to a plethora of reasons, died in the line of duty. That's what Memorial Day is about. Now, granted, I understand that also happens in our law enforcement and our other first responders and firefighters. And those people, obviously, we acknowledge. They do it, especially our law enforcement backing the blue is what we do here at Cities 92.9. But today, or tomorrow, I should say, this weekend, we are specific in what we're acknowledging. It is those who literally went to serve, to battle, to fight for the freedoms that we enjoy. The pools that are open, you have the freedom to go to these pools that will be opening up. You have the freedom to get your grill out and to grill. You have the freedom to listen to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Or you have the freedom not to. Freedom. National freedom. That's what we are celebrating, is those individuals who died in the line of duty. For that, we are eternally grateful. You know, on the chat room, on the live feed, and if you haven't taken the time to move over to the live feed, now we're not, like Kevin says on his show, Speechless, we're not asking you to be watching any of our live presentations on any of the platforms while you're driving. We're hoping that you're sitting in the comfort of your home, or maybe on a park bench, or maybe at one of these cookouts or these pools where you can just pull us up on the app. You can do that. You can go to Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, and you can see us. This is part of our new programming that we're doing here at Cities. But if you haven't had an opportunity to tune in, please do. But this is the freedom we have as a nation through our constitutional republic, through our Constitution, to have our First Amendment, to have our Second Amendment, to have all of our amendments protected by those who were willing to pay the ultimate price. Hey, we're going to cover a lot today. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday before Memorial Day. Hopefully you continue to stay tuned in. We are going to have Ray Estrada up here after break. He is running for the 17th Congressional District in Illinois. Ray is a very dynamic human being. I think you're going to enjoy hearing from Ray. So stay tuned, because Ray's going to be here. And then after Ray, we're going to have a very interesting, and speaking of someone who served our country, she's been a physician in the Army for 39 years. Physician, and she still is participating in that. She's going to be on, her name is Susan Mantell, to let us know about the Lincoln Day dinner over in Champaign County on June 3rd with Brand Estrada from the Walk Away movement. And then finally, 2:30, my friend, your friend, everyone's friend, Darren Bailey is going to be here with us talking about the craziness of what just happened in Springfield. $50 billion in spending. JB doesn't have a clue. Hey, we'll cover all that when we come back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
Okay, I can bring Ray on now. You can start talking to him.
There he is. Hey, I don't know if you just heard that. I was giving you, saying real nice things about you, Ray.
I heard, David. Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you, my friend. Obviously, today is a big day, the day before Memorial Day, and you might have heard a little bit about that I always lean into John's Gospel, the 15th chapter. 13th verse, no greater love is there than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. So we know that Jesus obviously died on the cross, was resurrected, but died on the cross for our spiritual freedom, so that we could be free through his sacrifice, his blood offering. Well, then you quickly flash over to our American servicemen who died in the line of duty, and they too shed their blood for our national freedom. No greater love is there than this. I mean, to know that the sacrifice, there's only been two people that have sacrificed, Jesus and the American soldier.
Yeah. It's amazing how so many of us take it for granted, and perhaps some of us, appreciate it more than others, let's say. But when I hear people complaining and arguing about, let's say making demands to the state, and it's like, gosh, think of all those people that died. What demands were they making? They were given they were giving to their nation.
Yes.
And like today Memorial Day is about those who lost their lives.
Ray's taking a drink of his coffee. The morning buzz is still working for Ray. Hey, I did hear you on Kat Peterson's show earlier this week. If our audience that's currently tuned in to our Facebook Live, if you did not catch Ray, you can catch not only this segment, you can replay it over and over again by going to cities929.com and pulling up the tab that says shows, and you can listen to when Ray was on with Kat Peterson, and you can also listen to a rerun of this show. Ray, I've got your Facebook page pulled up, so I'm locked and loaded and ready to go. We're ready to do battle here today, because I think that's what we're up against, right, Ray? I mean, the fight for this country and this nation, the soul of it.
Absolutely, David. I think that I don't think that we have the luxury of time anymore. I don't think we can go ahead and continue to be complacent with what's happening. It's very alarming and frightening what's going on, as you know very well, with the border, and what's going on, of course, with the debt ceiling, with the money that has been pouring out of Washington, D.C., with no sign of ever changing their model.
Changing course.
More than we have.
That's right. They're not changing course. I mean, as much of an impact that Kevin McCarthy can have by asking for some reduction in spending, the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling, is the very essence of continuing to remain indebted in the nation. Are we truly a free nation if we have this much debt? I think we're coming back on, Ray, so I'm going to bring you in here shortly.
Okay.
All right, we're back, and I'm going to tell you, just like that, we've already moved through a half hour of the show. We always appreciate you joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. This is the DPB show, and it's such a special show, one that I always enjoy doing. I will never take this weekend for granted. I will always do a live show. You will not hear a rerun from me when Memorial Day falls after my Sunday show. I think if those men and women were willing to go and sacrifice their lives, then I should be at least willing to come in here and remind you of why it is we have a Memorial Day holiday. As I said in the opening, John's gospel says it best. No greater love is there than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. And you are my friend. All of you that listen to Cities 92, we consider you our friends, and we thank you for not only tuning in to our programming, but for contributing your hard-earned dollars to our advertisers and supporting them so they can support us. And we can continue to bring you conservative radio content, whether that be Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Markley Van Camp and Robbins, Ty Smith, Kevin Ferris across the way, Chandler and Swan. We're able to do that because of our advertisers. Hey, as I promised before going to break, I have a very dynamic human being on the line with us. If you're joining us on Facebook or Twitter or Rumble or YouTube, you can see the man stage right to me, and that is Ray Estrada. Ray is running for the 17th Congressional District seat. He is already announced. He's out there on Facebook. He's out there on Twitter. He's out doing the job already. He's meeting and greeting people, finding out what the constituents need. And I'm sure most of them have already told you, Ray, that they need common sense leadership in this insane, chaotic world. Thanks for joining us here at the DPB show, Ray.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for having me on. And I think what you just mentioned, it's something so simple yet so necessary. The key word, common sense. I think we need common sense in our education. We need common sense in enforcing our laws. We need common sense in not spending more than what we have. I think we need common sense in lowering the crime that we're having right now all across the United States. So I went ahead and I took the plunge, let's say. I did a lot of praying and made a lot of questions, let's say.
A lot of soul searching. I can only imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And talked with quite a few friends. I said, look, I think we no longer have the luxury to be complacent. It's not enough to sit at home on your couch watching TV and complain about what's going on. I think that right now we are having a crisis in many fronts. We are having a crisis with the economy. We're having a crisis in our national security. We're having a crisis with the education system. And we are certainly having a crisis right now with the crime. And I think too many families are hurting. Families that don't really have opportunities, let's say, and that's all they want, the opportunity to go ahead and prosper. I think the American people are strong and they are honorable, and they don't like free handouts. They want the opportunity to get good jobs and provide for their families. And that's what I am hoping.
It's pretty much
we win this.
Yeah, it's pretty
and
much
provide that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple as that, Ray. And I want to give you an opportunity to tell your story. And not only what led you to making the announcement to run for Congress, but the backstory of who Ray Estrada is and what led you to this point. But I do have to give you a quick shout out on your page, your congressional page. You posted on May 19th the quote of common sense. Our safety and security demand common sense leadership to solve the border crisis. Now, when we talk about border states, we're all border states now. There's no longer just Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, Louisiana. We're all border states to the Mexican border because this immigration, this illegal immigration, is going to consume the entire country. But I did notice that you did let your audience know that you would be on air today. So hat tip to you for that. But Ray, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about the history behind Ray Estrada, your family. It is an amazing story. I've heard it. I know our audience would love to hear a little bit about it.
Thank you, David. As you can hear, I have an accent. I came from Nicaragua in 1979. That's 44 years ago. My family has always been close to the United States, so we've always been traveling back and forth to the U.S. And I remember even before I got here, when I was younger than 12 years old in Nicaragua, always listening how wonderful and how great the United States of America was. In 1979, when the socialists, the communists took over my country, my homeland, let's say back then, now America is my country, we had to leave, unfortunately. The socialists came and they confiscated property. They came there with the flag saying that we are going to have social justice, we are going to have equity, everybody's going to have the same. And to some point, they delivered. everyone had equal access to misery and equal access to poverty. They did away with the institutions. Everything became politicized, meaning if somehow you disagreed with them, you were a terrorist. If you somehow
Well, that
held your
sounds familiar.
family,
That sounds familiar, Ray. If
I
you
know,
disagree
isn't it
with somebody,
scary?
you're a terrorist, you're a misogynist, you're a homophobic, a transphobic, the list goes on. You're a white supremacist, you're a mega extremist. I mean, so you've already lived through this, Ray.
Yes, unfortunately we did. So thankfully, we came to the United States legally. We landed in New Orleans on Delta Airlines. We were blessed. And I have made my life here. I mean, I went to junior high school here in Galesburg, Churchill Junior High. I graduated from high school, took some classes at the junior college in Galesburg, and then I went to Augustana, and I graduated from Augustana College with my BA in political science and international relations. And I met my wife there, by the way, at Augustana. We both graduated from Aggie. And we got married there, actually. And then we both moved on to Chicago for graduate school.
Wow. That is amazing. Now, how long have you been married, Ray?
I have been happily married 29 years. So that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
How many children, Ray?
We have 4.
Okay.
4. I wanted 8, but I was lucky. I got 4 out of my wife. I'm Catholic and she was Lutheran.
So,
by the way, I'm just joking. I am blessed with 4 wonderful children.
And you know what? You're right. You're somebody that believes in family. It's very evident that you honor God, you love your family, and you love your country and hard work. And that's, I think, the emphasis of what your platform is. Our conversation a few weeks ago, where we talked about that, what lies ahead. Obviously, as somebody getting into a national race, obviously the congressional district is you serve in Washington, D.C., you represent a district in Illinois. But, the commitment that comes with that, you have to have the buy-in from your family. And I know that you assured me that you did. In fact, I think that, and I know it was your son, maybe a 20-year-old son, that made the announcement that you would be running. It introduced you as the candidate for the 17th Congressional District.
Yes, that was my son, RJ. Very proud of all of them. Very proud of him as well. I mean, his second year now at Augustana in pre-dental medicine. And like you said, David, we have God in our lives, God, family, and country. I think the United States is the greatest country in the world. And I think it is our duty to do whatever we can to keep our republic, to make sure that we can go ahead and pass these freedoms that we have. Like the Constitution say, it talks about our posterity. I think that we have that blessing. People that came before us, they sacrificed, they fought in whatever way that they were called to fight, some to serve in politics, some to serve in government, in other institutions, some to serve in the military. So in my case, I believe that God has put me in this path, and I will do everything in my power to get to that point, to serve you guys, and not to forget that seat in Washington, D.C. belongs to we the people. It's so unfortunate that when you hear politicians, they get to Washington and they talk about their seat in Congress. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to all of us.
Well, and that is true. And I know that you're someone that believes wholeheartedly in that. We've talked a little bit about term limits and many other issues that I don't know will be resolved in your time in Congress. But one of the issues I believe has to be resolved, and I know that we're getting close to a break, and we definitely want to hold you on after the break, Ray, is immigration and the crisis at our border. I mean, you firsthand know in depth about what's happening at our border and where all these people are coming from. They're just not coming from Mexico. They're coming from around the world. Talk to our audience a little bit more about that. What has kind of opened this gate, and how do we go about securing the border? You know, President Trump almost had the border secured to some degree. I mean, there was still an inflow of people. However, nothing like this administration under Joe Biden.
Yes. I think, David, that's one of the most threatening issues that we have right now for, threatening our national security. Too many good people have no real grasp on what's really going on in the border. We are getting people that are totally unvetted. We have no idea if they have a criminal history, if they are coming into the United States to do us harm. We have no idea, where they're coming from. Like you mentioned, the people coming across now are not the stereotypical as so many people would assume, that they're humble families coming from Mexico. We are getting people from all over Africa, Asia, the Middle East. The Middle East. A great deal of those people that are coming in here, they are not coming with good intentions. When I was in Costa Rica last year, through my foundation, I met with some officials of the United Nations, of the High Council for Refugees. And the conversation that we had only made me more concerned. It's not 4 million as you would hear on TV right now. Even back then, the numbers were about 8 million, but people are not talking about it.
Yeah.
I met with some of the refugees there, and some of them were desperate, and some of them wanted to go back to their homeland, to Colombia, Venezuela. So what my foundation did, we helped them get back to their own country. But anyway, we can talk about this forever. It's a very dangerous situation for national security.
It is one of the big issues when we talk about the Constitution, to protect and defend our borders, and we're not doing that. Hey, Ray, I don't know if you can hear this on your end, but the music's playing in my ear, and that usually means that we have to take a commercial break to allow our advertisers to promote their businesses and services. But you will stay on with me through the break. We'll be on Facebook Live.
Absolutely.
So, hey, if you're out there listening, jump on over to Facebook Live or to Rumble or to Twitter, and you can see Ray and I kind of continue to walk this conversation out. And he will be joining us back on air after break, so he can tell us how we can be part of helping him become our next congressperson of the 17th Congressional District, right after this here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Ray, if you saw me looking down at my phone, I monitor my text still. I look at the chat. Our chat room is, we have got one of our loyalist contributors, Pam Kuchenmeister. She's on. She's talking about child trafficking should be investigated. This is an all-out assault on this country by our own government. I'd like to talk a little bit about that when we come back. Obviously, about the debt ceiling and the spending. It's a joke. Nobody knows what's in that bill. And I jokingly said that if
can you see the question on screen? I think that's a good one to answer.
Oh, okay. What area does the 17th district cover? We will go into that. Okay. We will put, Kevin, we're going to put up a map so they can see. Because once again, gerrymandering through the state General Assembly, they have and Ray's got a map, I think. Ray's probably got a physical map he can show us.
Yeah, I'll show you.
There we go. Look at that.
This is the way it was.
Yeah.
Right here.
Okay.
And you can see how they gerrymandered it.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
They carved out every single spot they could to make it impossible for us to win.
Yes, and we have a system.
But we will win.
We will win. We will win. We have a system of how we divide up land, farmland in the state of Illinois. And it would be really simple if they just used the square block approach of tiers and townships. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tiers and townships. They could divide this thing. Hey, Ray, I started telling you my texter was my daughter, the one that just graduated with her second bachelor's from Illinois State University. Yeah, she's in the process of finishing up the accelerated nursing program where she gets a bachelor's in nursing in 15 months. She gets a 4-year degree in 15 months. So she has been, you talked about locked and loaded. That's her. She said she was talking about sorry about the radio show. And I put a question mark. He said, are you listening? She said, radio show time, sorry. I am soon. I'm packing up to head to Bloomington. She lives over towards Champaign right now, which is not in your district, or I'm certain that I could get you one more vote, but she's actually in, I think, that seat that's held by, what's her name? Brzezinski, or how do you say her name? You know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking
Used
about.
to be Rodney Davis was in that district, and they drew it from Champaign all the way down to East St. Louis. It's crazy. But Ray, Pam's question, obviously, I think you addressed with the district, and we'll put a map up on our Facebook page, but child trafficking should be investigated.
You got a bump.
Oh, hold on. What's up?
You're about to start.
Okay, we're back on, Ray. Look at that. Just like that. You know, I'm going to have to get the timing down better, Kevin, with these breaks, because on the Facebook Live, my wife has mentioned now that I usually was able to have breaks during the break, but now that we're live throughout the 2-hour show, there is no breaks. No breaks, Ray. No breaks. So we're back, Ray. Hey, if you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, I'm David Paul Blumenshine. You know it. You love me. You don't love me. It doesn't matter. I'm here from 1 to 3. Actually, I love it when the people who hate me come on the show because it helps me create that advantage, Ray, where you're going to have Ray Estrada, candidate for the 17th Congressional District. Ray, you're going to have people that don't like you. That's just part of life, you know. I point to Jesus. Jesus said, they hated me first. They're going to hate you, especially if you're standing up and you're speaking truth to life. And that's what you're kind of doing with this immigration thing. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy topic to cover. Pam, our commenter on our Facebook Live, says child trafficking should be investigated. This is an all-out assault on this country by our own government. Who is involved in human trafficking? Because the majority of the people that we see that are being shifted throughout our country into these larger metropolitan areas and throughout the states that these folks are being taken to are usually, we don't see the children. Where are the children, right? Where are they?
There is what's going on right now. It's unprecedented human trafficking. The crisis that it's happening now with the drugs that are coming in, and children that are being trafficked. Honestly, David, I think it's unforgivable. And yes, this administration has a lot to answer for. And somehow we have to hold them accountable. It is unforgivable, the misery that is going on there. And let me share something interesting. You know how we always say immigration. David, what's going on right now in the border? It's not an immigration issue. Number one, it's a national security issue.
Yes.
Number two, we do have laws that would prevent this, and they are purposely being neglected, and they are not enforced. This guy, Alejandro Mayorkas, they say, well, we should impeach him. Well, at the end of the day, we all know that he is nothing but a yes man. He will go ahead. I mean, unfortunately, on the left, there are very few, and I say that because I'm being generous, that will actually be concerned about upholding the Constitution of the United States above their leftist agenda. It is not racist. It is not xenophobic to love and have respect and demand sovereignty for your country. Every other country does that. Why is it that it's bad for the United States to want to enforce its immigration law?
Hey, when you and I were in junior high, obviously that's something our audience doesn't realize. I too attended Churchill over in Galesburg. Ray,
No way. Oh yeah, that's right. You told me.
I told you that over.
Yes, that's right.
When we were in junior high, Ray, we were learning civics. We were learning the Constitution. Our educational system wasn't broken. Our state wasn't broken. We had no debt in Illinois. We also didn't have 37 years of Michael Madigan, and we sure didn't have a Joe Biden as our president, the worst president in the history of America. That's what will go down in the history books, is this man is the worst. But Ray, we didn't have the issues that we face right now, that the culture has totally flipped. And you know what? We need men and women who have strong faith and strong leadership skills like yourself. I know that we're up against the top of the hour, which means that we got to go back into the weather and the national news. But Ray, tell our audience, now that you have put yourself out there, you're running your campaign ahead of this election in 2024, where you will meet Matt, or I'm sorry, I always want to call him Matt Sorensen. It's Eric Sorensen. We used to have a county chair here named Matt Sorensen. But Eric Sorensen, who was seated just this past January in the 17th Congressional District, tell our audience how they can get involved in your campaign, how they can help you move the needle, because this election, I know it's easily said, it's kind of somewhat a cliche that there's no more important election than this one. I'm telling you, we don't ride this system in 2024. Our country as we know it is lost.
I will say this, that it is extremely, extremely important to go ahead and do our very best to win this election. I believe we can win it. I plan to go ahead and engage with all those difficult groups, those who do not agree with me. I am going to go into all of the Black neighborhoods and talk to these men and women, and I let them know, look, guys, you can do better than this. I will also engage with all of the Hispanics. I'll tell you somehow people get the wrong idea that Latinos are, let's say to the left. Ronald Reagan says, Latins are Republican. They just don't know it. And the fact is, I think that we as Republicans are not engaged with so many communities. So my plan is to go and engage with all of them. And mentioning our opponent, this radical activist, Eric Sorensen. Eric Sorensen is a radical leftist activist. That's what he is. He has proven it. He can no longer say, oh, I'm going to do this for my district. He has proven that he has done nothing to provide any kind of relief to our, his constituents as citizens here in the 17th district. He voted against a bill to have more security in the border.
Hey, so, Ray, we're up against a hard break, but we're going to continue the conversation online. If you can stay with us for a minute, because I have a couple questions I want to answer. I know our next guest is in the queue and she's ready. But we're going to be back here at Cities 92.9, and we're going to get to you, Ray Estrada.
RayForCongress.com. I would need everybody's help.
Yes.
Ray Estrada for Congress.com. Please go to our website. And any contribution will be very much appreciated.
Hey, we'll be right back. Ray's going to join us live for a couple seconds on the Facebook chat. So go over there right now. We will be back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. All right, Ray. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to be able to hear him, you got to have your headphones.
Sorry about that. I took my headphones off because it was so loud, Kevin.
Sorry.
Kevin has to coach me through this, Ray. I have to keep my headphones on it was the news. So I was like, I'm not going to be able to hear Ray if the news is on, but it's not. He's right. He shut my headphones off. I see that Dr. Susan is in the lineup for next. She's going to talk about their Lincoln Day dinner over in Champaign County. They got Brandon Straka, who is from the Walk Away movement. Obviously, this young man used to be a Democrat. He happened to be someone who was gay. You can speak into that because your opponent, Eric Sorensen, is very forthright with where he stands as a gay man. In fact, that was a big part of him coming out of the race and winning that seat. He rather publicized that than really working on behalf of the constituents. But Ray, we have a commenter. He happens to be somebody that I really respect. His name is Cristo Ortiz, and I always get his last name incorrect, so sorry, Cristo. He said, do you believe that our immigration system is broken and we need immigration reform?
David, there can always be room for improvement in any law, that a modern civilized society has, right? But I will say this, too many times, people that want open borders always bring that up and say, well, our immigration system is broken. Therefore, it's okay to have human trafficking, drug trafficking, and open borders. I would say I'm sure there are many aspects of our immigration laws that can be improved. Absolutely. And I will say, you know what? God willing, I get to Congress, we will go ahead and see if, what we can do better. But the one thing that must always be the center of that argument is, will it be good for the United States?
Amen. Amen.
Period. That has to be the foundation of any law that we create. We cannot make laws to benefit people outside the United States. We have to make laws that go ahead and they go along with our values, our principles, and also laws that will go ahead and be there for American citizens, not the other way around.
Yes. Well, Ray, it's been a pleasure to have you here today. We're going to get you back, obviously, because I think there's a lot more to say, especially as we learn more about what is involved in the raising of the debt ceiling and what compromises and common ground we truly were able to manage with the spending. None of us will know. It's no different than the $50 billion state budget that was just signed into law in the middle of the night at 2:30 in the morning down in Springfield. None of us will really know the effects and what was, the line items that were in there for weeks, because it takes a long time to go through 3,000, 4,000 pages. But Ray, once again, appreciate you. We will get you back on. Obviously, continue the hard work. You and your family have a very happy Memorial Day weekend. Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you, and God bless you and your family as well, and everyone listening. And please go to our website, rayestradaforcongress.com. Follow us also on our social media, and do what you can to do any kind of contribution. Everything matters right now. Thank you, and God bless.
And they are expensive. Thank you, Ray. We appreciate you. All right. Just like that. One guest down and one's already in queue. See, I'm not used to this. This piece of it's pretty cool because now I can see Susan's already in the waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Susan, thank you. There you are. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and we're going to go back on live just like that. It just doesn't take long.
20 seconds.
20 seconds is what my producer Kevin is saying over across the way. So thank you for joining us on short notice, Susan. I know that you've got to promote this event that's going to happen, so we're going to get right to that. But I also, before that, you happen to be the only guest I have on today that has served our country, and we talked a lot about that. I don't know if you were able to hear a little bit of our lead-in for our show today, but I talk a lot of, here we go. Yes, it is. And yes, we are fighting corruption because we don't have a choice, folks. We've got to stand up. I understand it's easy to get discouraged by what is happening, not only on the federal level, but on the state level in our own communities here in Illinois and beyond. I mean, many of you are battling the same issues that Ray Estrada was just talking about. Illegal immigration has infiltrated every state in the United States of America. No longer are we a country that secures our borders. We have an open border. Contrary to whatever the left says, our border is wide open. We see it demonstrated even in Bloomington, Normal, across the central Illinois area, the influx of people suddenly showing up. And so it's something that has to be addressed. No different than our budget of $50 billion here in the state of Illinois, or the debt ceiling, where we are truly spending our children and grandchildren, our great-grandchildren's futures right out from under them. I know that this is a complex issue, especially one on the eve of Memorial Day, where we celebrate those who are willing to pay it all, to give their lives in defense of our nation. I can't even begin to express the gratitude I have for the freedom that I enjoy to be on this radio here at Cities 92.9 because of the sacrifices by so many families even here locally, like Yvonne Rogers, her son Josh, killed in Afghanistan just a few years ago. Yvonne is a Gold Star mom. Josh was a graduate of Normal Community High School. You can go out to the cemetery. His grave's out there. And you can honor him by going out and visiting his grave and saying a prayer to not only his family, because to continue to have to live on beyond the death of a child, a service person, but to live on beyond that without having that individual with you. That's why we call it Memorial Day, to memorialize these people. Once again, not to get confused by Veterans Day. Veterans Day is where we honor anybody who has served in our armed services, whether living or dead. Memorial Day is when we honor those who came home in flag-draped caskets. That's who we honor today. And granted, I understand there have been soldiers who have died, soldiers, airmen, sailors who have died on our own shores and in our own country in defense of our country. In fact, that's what we talked about with the immigration process, is we know that there are law enforcement agents who have given their lives in defense of our country. But this specific day is set aside to remember those who have served in multiple wars and defended our nation. With that, we have our next guest. She is already queued up. I was commenting to our Facebook Live audience that this is really cool to see that I can have multiple people in kind of queue, ready to go. We had Ray and then Dr. Susan. Do I say that right? Mantell? Is that correct?
Yes,
Mantell?
that's correct.
Dr. Susan, thank you for joining us today. I know you guys have a big dinner on June 3rd over in Champaign. But before we get to the dinner, I want to take some time because I think our audience will be better for knowing a little bit about who you are and how you've come into the role of organizing this dinner and being part of this dinner. It's because of your commitment to our country, and especially to those who have fought for freedom. Tell our audience a little bit about your background, not only being a physician, but serving in the armed services.
Thank you, David. I joined the Army when I was 17. And so I'm actually in my 29th year of service, joined through ROTC, and just wanted to serve my country. And it has become a kind of lifelong service commitment. And I've served all over the world. I've had the opportunity to lead a hospital in Kuwait most recently. And so that was actually a really cool and awesome responsibility. But in general, I just, I serve every, 1 weekend a month, and kind of every day for some things because I'm a commander. So
You've done that for 39 years. Is that what
yeah, yes.
39 years. I'm doing the math. So you put 17 in there. You did that to yourself by
That's all right.
putting
I
the
don't care.
addition together. That doesn't bother you. Well, I'm not
No.
bothered by it either. I only think that I'm my age when I actually look into this screen over here and I realize, wait a minute, who is that guy that has no hair and that facial hair over there? I still think I'm 22 years of age at times until I go work out, and then I realize, no, I'm not.
Yep.
I'm a little
Yep.
slow.
I feel the same. Sometimes.
So you bring up something that's interesting. Serving abroad, this country, as a physician in a hospital in a foreign land, I'm sure you see some of what we are memorializing tomorrow and this weekend through Memorial Day weekend, and honoring those who pay the ultimate price. Unfortunately, I'm sure you've been part of that, of having to send home from a foreign land a soldier, a sailor, an airman who did not make it.
Yeah, we have had a few circumstances like that. Unfortunately, suicide happens. We've had, I do recall taking care of the remains of a working dog they're all soldiers as well. So yeah, it has, it's a sobering moment. And I haven't personally had to, deal with the remains myself, but I have had soldiers that were responsible for that. So it's it's a it's an incredible responsibility to make sure that all of the policies get followed so that everything is done correctly, and those soldiers or sailors, Marines, airmen, that they all get the honor that they deserve.
And it is detailed. I mean, obviously, if for our audience out there, and if you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, on the line with me that you can hear via radio, or if you're streaming with us here at Facebook or Rumble or Twitter or YouTube, you see I have Dr. Susan Mantell. Did I say that right? I got it.
Yes.
You say your last name for me real quick.
Mantell.
Mantell, see? I did say Mantell. It's just like it sounds, Mantell. Dr. Susan Mantell, obviously, if you're just joining us, you're hearing her voice. She is joining us today to talk a little bit about this huge dinner they're going to have, and they're hoping that you will want to participate in that. Brandon Straka of the Walkaway Movement will be at the Lincoln Day dinner in Champaign, but I get 2 for 1 because Dr. Susan is she serves in the armed services. She's been in the United States Army, correct? Did I get the branch?
Yes.
The United States Army for 39 years. And if you're just tuning in, you would have heard that last part of that where I was inquiring about the policies and procedures of dealing with the remains of our soldiers, airmen, and sailors. And that's very detailed, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in addition, we have soldiers and officers who are responsible as casualty assistance officers that go out when a soldier or a member of the military dies. There are responsible parties that go and inform the family and help with everything that occurs, to help get their benefits straight and get the remains back to the States and all of that. So the military does a very good job at trying to make sure everything is done in a consistent manner, and that it honors those individuals that gave their lives in service of our country.
Well, and I was mentioning at the opening of the show, Susan, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but my show is the bumper music into my show is contemporary Christian music, and it's because I believe that first and foremost, I believe in God, then family, then country, or hard work, or whatever you put in there, because your country is hard work. It's not easy being in a free nation. But one of the things that I opened the show up with is that there are two people who have put it all on the line for the sake of humanity. And that is Jesus Christ, who paid the ultimate price for our spiritual freedom, and the American soldier, airman, or sailor who died in the line of duty, who paid it all, the price, for the sake of our national freedom. And how important that is, that we get to live in a free country, a free nation. And you, with your travels in the armed services, have seen what it's like to be in lands where they don't have those freedoms. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's important to just every day be thankful. My service in the Army has mostly been in countries where we have an organized, relationship with them. So, we work really well with other armed forces. But I have been to countries like Guyana, South America, where I did humanitarian aid mission, and it teaches you how very lucky we are, and at the same time how entitled our society can be. I think it would do everyone good to do a mission trip or serve in, or even just visit other countries to know how much we take for granted every day. We take for granted our freedom of speech or our ability to walk around without wearing a head garment or certain clothes or certain times of the day, being able to follow our religion of choice without being persecuted. A lot of those freedoms are kind of teetering on the edge of being taken away, and I think it would be a travesty to see our nation lose all of our freedoms after so many thousands upon thousands of people have died trying to support keeping our freedoms and our liberties.
That is a good segue to this upcoming event. Obviously, most of the people that we know throughout the Central Illinois area are enjoying the opening of pools. This happens to be the weekend where we get to go and swim at the local swimming pool. We get to join family and friends and have cookouts and be, there present with others. And at the same time, we don't want to forget that there are families who have loved ones who have paid the ultimate price with their life in defense of this great nation, which is the greatest nation on this earth. I'm just going to claim it right now. But Susan, we've got a speaker who's pretty dynamic. He's gone through a little persecution of his own, and he's going to be the keynote speaker for the upcoming Lincoln Day dinner in Champaign on June 3rd. I don't know exactly where that's at and the ticket price and everything. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Holiday Inn that's in Champaign on right on Neal Street in Champaign, not the one in Urbana, definitely the one in Champaign. It is going to be at 6 p.m. And if you want to actually talk to Brandon and interact with him, we have a VIP session between 6 and 7. And that ticket price is, they're all on the website, but it's $90 just for dinner and to watch him speak. And then you can pay the extra, the $180 to actually see him and interact with him and take pictures, etc. We have tables for if someone wants to purchase an entire table, that would be $850 for the table of 10. So you get a little bit of a discount if you buy a whole table, or if you want to buy an entire table with the VIP, it would be $1,900. We do have we have student prices, so it would be reasonable to bring teenagers to this event, and those prices are $50. So I would encourage anyone that wants to understand, why Brandon walked away from the Democrat Party, just to come and listen to his story. He's also going to talk about his experience with the Department of Justice during his J6 event. He was at the Capitol, although he didn't really do anything wrong, just like many of the people that were at the Capitol. He was still received a misdemeanor charge and had to serve time for that. But he will talk about that during his speaking event at
during his keynote
Lincoln Day dinner.
presentation.
Yes, yes.
Well, we are up against a break. I want you to hold over because I wanted you to tell the folks about a little bit about still being active duty in the Army, and a physician, but also how you got involved with the Champaign County Republican Party. Just FYI, I think I might have mentioned this to you at some point, Susan. I too was in Washington D.C. J6, and I'm pretty certain I did everything right because I have a First Amendment that said I have the right to be there and to peacefully assemble and to peacefully protest when I believe that our country is off the rails or outside of the constitutional structure that we are supposed to live under. I also had my picture taken with Brendan Straka down in Springfield, but we're going to talk all about that when we come back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
Sounds great. Thanks, David.
Okay, now we're back on the chat, Susan. So there is people who watch us both on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. So just know that you're still being recorded. Everything everything you say and do can be used against you. Isn't that how they used to say it on the old detective shows? That everything you say and use cannot be affected. I've already noticed that my beautiful wife is part of the chat. And she said that you take me to the Lincoln Day dinner, David Paul, or lose me forever. Hey, I know that line. So that might mean that I will see you then on Friday or Saturday the 3rd, right?
Yes.
Can I get the date right?
Right. So you can get a couple's ticket for $165, or if you want to get to both see Brandon, I believe it's $200. So.
Well, my wife will want to see Brandon because she was extremely jealous. This would have been back in May of 2020 in Springfield. They did a rally, Open Illinois rally, Reopen Illinois rally. Yes, it was 2020. It was May of 2020. And Brandon was one of the speakers there. And awesome. I happened to be around Abraham Lincoln there on the stage, left, I think, on the Capitol steps. And he was there, and I snapped a shot with he and I. And now forever I have a picture. I'll send it to you. Maybe I can bring it with me and he can autograph it if I buy
there
the
you
picture.
Go. That's what you should do.
But when we come back, this will be a short run coming back from break. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to give all of the specifics about the dinner and Brandon, a little bit of a plug for Brandon.
Okay.
I do see that Joanne Knippmeyer is on. She says,
5 seconds.
Yay, glad to see you are on here. Yay. It is a big weekend that we are able to take advantage of. And there is only one reason that we have that ability. And it's because of what we celebrate and memorialize this weekend. It is the American soldier, sailor, airman, the people who went and served this country and died in the line of duty. We want to acknowledge them this day on the DPB show. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so thankful that I have a microphone where I can call this out for what it is. This weekend is about those who, as scripture says, no greater love is there than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. And you know what? We believe that you're all friends here of Cities 92.9. On the live Facebook, if you're joining us there, Twitter, Rumble, or YouTube, we have Dr. Susan Mantell, who is with the Champaign County Republican Party. Not only has she served our country for 39 years as a physician, well, not all 39 years, I'm sure, because somewhere in there she joined when she was 17. So unless she was like Doogie Howser and was one of those, what do you call them? The really bright people that proteges. See, I pulled it out of the thin air. I don't think she was that. But Susan, so now you're involved with the Champaign County Republican Party. You've seen an opportunity to step up and to lead the way and to have this dinner, which you guys have every year. This year's Brandon Straka. Tell us a little bit about Brandon and what you believe he's going to deliver as far as a message, and then how our audience can get tickets for the event next Saturday.
Yeah, thank you, David. So Brandon is the founder of the Walk Away campaign, and he basically launched a video back in 2018 deciding to leave the Democrat Party after he started doing a lot of research on just what lies they were actually telling him. So he was a truth seeker, and he basically placed this video online, and it went viral. And as he started to educate people across the country, a lot of other people joined him, and he now has about 600,000 followers, maybe more than that, on Twitter. He's been featured on a lot of different cable news channels. He's been on Mark Levin on his Life, Liberty, and Levin show. He's also been on Tucker Carlson, of course, before Tucker was fired. And he's really a charismatic leader in the Walk Away movement, just trying to educate people and get them to understand that conservatism is a better path than the Democrat, liberal, progressive agenda.
Well,
so go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to add something, but you paused. It was an awkward pause. That's what my wife calls it. She calls it a Blumenshine pause, and she's like, "Oh, you weren't finished yet." So I apologize for interjecting there.
You're fine. So if people want to come see Brandon in person, they can go to the Champaign County GOP website, and that's www.champaign.gop. And there's a big banner right across the front. You can click on there and you can obtain tickets. You can reach me as well if you have special, dietary requirements, or if you want more information, there's ways to reach me on the website. We need to have as many people sign up by Tuesday if possible, but if you get this message later and it's after Tuesday, please reach out to me anyway, because, we'll probably have a few extra tickets that we save back. But this is one of our main fundraisers, and I would encourage anybody who wants our country to come back to normalcy to really start supporting any of your local GOPs. I think going local is the best way to get our country back, because we can change it at the local level a lot easier than trying to change it at the congressional level. And it's through support like this.
And I agree. And thank you for putting that plug in. Well, I've got the music playing in my ear. That means that we will be going to break in. Susan, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for serving our country. Thank you for serving the people of Champaign County with the Republican Party. I can already see once again in the waiting room is Darren Bailey. So Darren, we're going to let Darren give a plug to the Champaign County Lincoln Day dinner with Brandon Straka, because Darren was on the steps that day that Brandon Straka came to Springfield and gave a speech to that day about restoring Illinois, restoring our country, returning it to the values of a constitutional republic. That's how a free country remains free. But thank you, Susan. Appreciate you. You can count on it. Sounds like my wife and I will be attending, so I will go out to the website.
Fantastic.
Hey,
Great.
appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you, Susan. Hey,
Thank
we're
you,
going to be
David.
back right after this here at Cities 92.9, the News and Talk of Bloomington Normal, the David Paul Blumenshine Show. And as I said earlier, I can already see he's in the waiting room queued up. Darren Bailey will be with us talking about the craziness of Springfield and what that just happened down there. But we will do that after a break.
One sec. Sorry, I just needed a second to.
That's all right. He's Kevin's over there pushing buttons. Look at that. Now that's an outfit.
It stresses me out when you have this many guests in, David.
Kevin says it stresses him out when I have this many guests in.
I bet he can handle it good. He's
handling
you got the guy there. So
Kevin, tell Darren's talking to you.
Darren, I'm so happy.
buddy.
I'm so happy you're the last guest on today, because sometimes David brings in these other people and like they just love, and like you get it a little bit more. You get like, we got to get to break and everything. Other people, they're like, well, they can't hear the music, so I'm just gonna keep talking, and they love just keeping talking. But I got to keep us on a schedule, you know. Like
Darren could be the only former elected official or current elected official that actually can operate his own. He can produce his own
I wouldn't
podcast.
go that far. But we are making it happen, but I couldn't post this week's because when we posted it, for some reason, when I put it on Facebook, the picture of the video wouldn't show up. So it was just a blank page and people weren't clicking on it. So.
Well, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but see, it says Darren Bailey, former candidate for Illinois governor. Right, Kevin's got this down, and he's got it. We're out on Twitter, we're out on Facebook, we're on Rumble
and YouTube.
I have my own YouTube channel. Look at that, Darren. And if it wasn't for Paul Garcia, we would have none of it.
Yeah,
that's true too.
You've got quite a bit of talent up there. That's pretty awesome.
They say, oh, wait a second. It says, one of the commenters in the chat, you know her, you love her, Joanne Knipmeyer, says, Darren, are you adjusted to the new chair yet?
We're getting there. No, it's not quite. I still got my other one on standby that I can bring in if I need to, but I don't think Cindy's going to let me.
Well, you and Cindy have been out transversing Southern Illinois on your motorcycle.
I literally just parked the bike. Just parked it, ran in here to get everything, and sat down. Just not even, not even.
You timed it perfectly.
Minutes now, so it worked out great.
Well, we had Ray Estrada. I don't know how much time we have until we come back on air, but we had Ray Estrada, candidate for the 17th congressional district on. What a great candidate. You talk about somebody that can speak into immigration.
About 60 seconds, by the way.
He said 60 seconds. Kevin says 60 seconds, but he can speak into immigration. Then I didn't even anticipate getting Susan on, but they really need a push over in Champaign County with Brandon Straka coming in for their Leaking Day dinner. So we're going to try to promote that. Obviously, we want to see them fill up the seats there for that dinner. And
that'd be good.
Yeah, and so my wife has already put in the comment section that I will be going to the dinner with her or lose her forever, and so I think that means she's going to return from Minnesota. But when we come back, you can speak into it. I love the hat, the POWMIA hat. What a great time to be wearing that hat. But we're going to talk all things Springfield, and you can just tell our audience. And you're already telling them because they're here joining us live on Facebook,
10 seconds.
Rumble, and Twitter that this is the same old, just spend more money, business as usual, waste your children and grandchildren's future. So, here we go. You know, just like that, we are up against the last segment of the DPB show. Kevin, you're right. You get two segments. You're right. I got my short one at the end. Okay, I'm saying the last half hour, but we're going to carry Darren through the entire thing. But you know, Kevin was mentioning it's hard to adjust when you have this many back-to-back guests. But it's important because this day and this weekend are like no other show that I do in the course of the year. This is the day. This is the weekend. Memorial Day is when we acknowledge and celebrate and memorialize. You know, as my pastor said this morning, two people have paid the ultimate price with their lives for humanity. Jesus Christ did it for the freedom, the spiritual freedom of everyone through the blood on that cross. And the American soldier, airman, sailor, they paid the ultimate price for our national freedom with their blood. Isn't it amazing that freedom isn't free? In fact, what I acknowledge now is it's through the blood of humanity that we have freedom. So that is what we celebrate. That's what we memorialize. Please get out there and enjoy the weekend, whether that's at your pool opening up, whether that's a cookout, with family and friends, but please, please, please make sure you take time to bow your head and to acknowledge and pray for the families that are still struggling, I'm sure, with the loss of a loved one, especially if it's been recent, like Josh Rogers here in Normal Community High School, who lost his life in Afghanistan just a few years back. His mom, Yolanda, was on my program 2 years ago as a Gold Star mom talking about that. But that's what this day's about. Darren, sorry you had to endure that long segue into yours, but right online with us is our former candidate for Illinois governor, and pretty much, I believe, the true leader of the state of Illinois, because he puts God first, then he puts his family and you, and then our country and our state. And I don't think it should be any other way. Unfortunately, Darren, that's not the case in Springfield. They're not taking into consideration you and me. They don't care about our families and our futures here in Illinois, do they?
No, unfortunately not. Cindy and I just got through finishing a 2-day whirlwind tour on our motorcycle throughout the southern third of Illinois. And boy, it was refreshing going through the community, seeing the flags flying, driving through the cemeteries, seeing the commemoratives set up for the men and women who gave it all. And it just, and so we had to get back here, and I had to hurry extra fast when I found out I was going to be on your show. Thank you very much. But we're kicking, finishing the evening off. My son Cole, we're going to have a cookout for his birthday. So, we always, unfortunately, this time of Memorial Day to Labor Day has been commercialized to, barbecue season. But when you really think about that, it is, and you nailed it. It is an awesome concept that we would start, celebrating freedom on Memorial Day, and then we would wind up on Labor Day celebrating our hard work, of which none would be possible without the men and women who served, who sacrificed. And as you suggested, we stopped by a Mound City National Cemetery. That's the first time I'd been there. We stopped by there yesterday, and I was amazed at the headstones for unknown soldiers, even right there in the Mounds area. I mean, hundreds. So think about the simple fact of, for the men and women who sacrificed and gave all, but yet, not for the family, not even knowing, being able to put to rest, closure of the big what if question. So that's why we continue to remember the MIAs, the POWs. That's why we remember and say thanks for the great, like you said, the ultimate sacrifice. I just wanted to throw that in.
And obviously, if you're not with us live on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube at one of those platforms, if you're just joining us on the radio, Darren has on his black POW MIA hat. That's the type of human that he is. Obviously, Darren, you've been to Springfield. You were a representative for 2 years. You were a senator for 2 years. And you were exhausted. You already knew going in as a representative that the state of Illinois was broken. The nation is broken. In fact, I see in our chat, I won't read the comment, don't need to, but Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy came to an agreement. And unfortunately, we raised the debt ceiling. And I know that a lot of people on the left, JB included, believe that government is the solution to all problems, and that your wealth and your well-being is better in the hands of the government than it is the individual and the freedoms of the constitutional republic, which I think is laughable. And, we're approaching, $32 trillion in debt on the national level. And who knows, because we really can't, other than sources like Wire Points, get a firm grasp on what is owed in Illinois. But we know one thing, JB balancing the budget for the fourth consecutive or fifth consecutive years, depending on the report, because we know the truth is we haven't balanced a budget since 2001, when back then we only had $4 billion in unfunded liabilities. Now that's anywhere from 160 billion to 300 billion. Who do you believe? But we know that when you tout that you've balanced a budget, all you've really done was spend every penny that you have appropriated or allocated. So really, what have you truly done? It started out when you entered office back in 2018 at what, 32, 34 billion?
32 billion is what sparked you and I to run, and
Yes.
and with the passage of the 2018 budget, that added 2 billion. So when I started in 2019, the budget was a 34 billion. Just a year earlier, it was a $32 billion budget, and here we are now. I was frustrated last week when I learned the budget might be a $49.5 billion budget. It's a $50.5 billion budget. I mean, David, I want to quote Representative Jihan Gordon Booth. They're just a little north and west of you in Peoria. This is the disgusting people that we have serving. Oh, just listen to these words. She doesn't even know what she's saying. This is a quote. There's several quotes I have from her, but here's just listen to these words. I think I know what she's trying to say, but she doesn't say it. She says exactly, I think, what she's thinking. We should not have. She was the one that carried the budget in the House. Yep. She was the one that presented it. We should not have to choose between being responsible for being a responsible state and being a compassionate one. Yep. I mean, this is how J.B. Pritzker was raised. This is how these Democrats were raised. Yeah, I want it. I can't afford it, but doggone it, I can't tell my kids. I can't say no, so I'm just going to give it to you. We can do both. I dare say we have to do both. I mean, this is driving this is destroying us. It's destroying us inside out. Prior to that, she said, if you want to vote for credit upgrades for the state of Illinois, vote aye. It's a big lie. J.B. Pritzker is using COVID money to pump into this. It's all our tax money, whether it's federal or state. It was saying rob Peter to pay Paul. I wonder if people even know where that saying comes from. It goes back to your, they're giving away grace. It's free, and you're just taking some and giving credit. But here, it's just trading off. If you want to vote to fund public school children in your district, our schools are failing because of state government. Vote aye. If you want to fund your cities, your towns, your villages, and your district, vote aye. Our pension obligations aren't being met. We're being burdened with more and more property taxes. This is why. If you want to vote to give low income and middle income college students in your district the opportunity to go to college without being overburdened with college debt, vote aye. This is Jihan Gordon Booth. We've got to find people to run that. We've got to find people to.
I wonder if Jihan Gordon Booth, if she wants to be honest, I wonder, does she carry $25,000 in debt on her credit cards, or has she been able to manufacture wealth based on her time in the state house? Because as the representative of the 92nd district, obviously redrawn in Peoria, she is going to realize, according to this last budget, an increase in her salary, Darren. Darren, we're now approaching $90,000 for a part-time job that's 74 days in session. Now, granted, I get it. You're always on call when you are a state representative throughout the year.
I don't want to hear that nonsense. No, there's nothing to it. I don't want to. There's no. That's $72,000 is what we were getting paid whenever I started in 2019, and I said that was too much. It's a part-time job. You get per diem, you get pension, you get health insurance, and here's the best part. It's on automatic pilot from now on. They're never going to vote on a pay increase again because it goes up. The rate, it goes up just like the gas tax goes up.
The cost of living. You get a cost of living raise every year as a state representative in a bankrupt state. Now, granted, everybody's going to screech and say you can't be bankrupt. Only look in the federal government. But the essence is, at some point, you're going to have to pay the piper. If you're accruing almost $10 billion, which is now about 20% of our budget, in interest alone on our unfunded liabilities, is there really a way out of this, Darren?
I don't know. Our poor state workers, this is what I love, because our poor state workers out there working their tails off, there was no appropriation, no money given for any pay increase for them. So don't you dare think when they talk about a balanced budget. And David, I'm going to contend that even before 2001, our budget wasn't balanced because they weren't factoring in the pension debt. It's like if I came to you and told you that, I made money and I don't have any, I made money this year, but I forgot to tell you about this. Well, this little debt over here I got, it's not that big a deal. We're going to get it paid off. No, it's been a long time since the state of Illinois, under both sides of the aisle have been fibbing to us, but it has grown entirely entirely out of control. 2:30 in the morning for Saturday morning. I mean, this is nonsense of what we are allowing to take place right in front of our very eyes.
That's the most disgusting part about this, Darren. And I just freezed in the camera for a minute, but that's the most disgusting part of this, is that they do it in the quiet of night. The people aren't aware of it. And will the news really report? And what will they report? Will they report what Johanna is saying about funding schools? In fact, I even see Republican representatives and senators saying that, well, there was a good part to it, was the K through 12 spending. You know what? I'm sorry. We've got to stop that as the super minority, giving any accolades to this Democrat-run state. There's nothing good about a budget that's passed in the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, where no one's read it, and we have no idea what additional spending it really is involved until weeks or months after they pass it into law.
I'll contend there's a lot that we don't even know yet, won't know, and some of it will come into effect. Remember when the license plates doubled? Well, that was stuck in the gas tax increase bill. And remember, whenever police quit getting funded, local municipalities quit getting the money back from state. That was stuck in the 19 or the 20 budget. There's going to be stuff that when the time hits, when the clock drops, July 1st, January 1st, and these and little increments kick in, then we're going to learn even more than what we know now.
The old accelerator clauses on all of this legislation that will burden you, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren until the cows come home. Unfortunately, we as people of faith have hope. We hope for the second coming of Jesus Christ. That would take care of all of it, Darren.
That might be our only salvation.
Well, it is our only salvation. We know that. But the thing is what a cluster, and these people continue to get away with it. Darren, I know that many people that are listening are going to want to know, especially in regards to the fallout that we're experiencing here in the state of Illinois when it comes to the Republican Party. And we're going to talk about this on the other side of break, but we're also going to talk about it, continue this conversation. So jump over on Facebook or Twitter or Rumble or YouTube and listen. But we want to talk about the Republican Party in Illinois and the brokenness and what we need to do in order to win elections. We've got to get our own party straightened out before any of that's going to happen. Hey, we're going to do that when we come back here from break with Darren Bailey. Like I said, jump on over to Facebook. You can hear the discussion we have there. But we'll do that shortly after this break. And just like that, we are live again on Facebook. See, Darren, 2 hours is 2 hours now.
Yeah.
So you better make sure that you go to the bathroom before you come on air. Because if not, I have to turn it over to Kevin. Then he's like, what? I'm trying to show prep. Kevin's got a show coming on next, speechless. He's over there typing away. I have no idea what he is doing. I know that he just sat. Did you sit for the LSAT?
I'm still studying for it. My LSAT's on June 9th.
Okay, June 9th.
Oh, wow.
So Kevin's going to be studying.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Kevin's going to be sitting for the LSAT, and he's also doing a little show prepping right now because
a lot of show prepping.
Hey, but Darren, our audience that's still with us via streaming, the party's broken. And my lead-in, and I do a commercial. Illinois is broken, but not only is Illinois broken, the Republican Party is broken, and we just don't seem to have. We're a ship without a rudder.
Right.
What do we need to do to go forward?
We need to change our leadership. Period. We need to do it now. We need to get rid of the leader. We have no leadership. We need to get rid of the people that are in those positions right now, and we can do that today. We should have done it last week. We don't have to have the new leader figured out right now. We should be, but there's no talks. There's no people look at money. People look at position. The Illinois Republican Party right now, unfortunately, isn't interested in real leadership. We need a change, and we need to show the people that that the state central committee, the county chairs, that they're doing something, and we need to be making some changes right now because we are here soon we'll be a year off of the off of the primary.
Yeah.
We're going on 6, 7, 8 months off of the general. Nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, it's really gotten more watered down and worse. I think we're seeing that.
And the Dems are locked and loaded. They're ready for 24. Yeah. They're ready for 24, 26, 28. They haven't stopped. And here we are. It's embarrassing. It's like we have no coach on the field.
Right.
We have no quarterback to call the plays, or a defensive captain. I mean, but we do. That's not true. That's a little harsh. And I know that we're going to be coming back on air here shortly. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about this and then tell people how they can get in contact with you through Restore Illinois. But, you're right. We could do it in a nanosecond. And we have plenty of grassroots people that want that to happen. So unfortunately, Darren, I'm not going to say it's going to be a hostile takeover, but I do believe we're going to have to take it back.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any other way of doing that. I now regret that we didn't do that on December at that meeting.
I regret we didn't do it back in June after the primary. So
it is a shame, but hope is alive.
I thought we could unify and run together, but it didn't happen. So
no. Okay, here we come back on. And just like that, it's the end of one of the best shows of the year. And the only reason I say it's the best show of the year is because I get an opportunity to be behind this mic on the eve before Memorial Day. And you know what? I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I wouldn't be able to be behind this microphone talking about the Constitution, about the freedom of religion and religious liberties and freedom of speech, if it wasn't for the price that was paid, the ultimate price by our airmen, our sailors, our soldiers who went into combat, whether that be in foreign lands or domestic, and paid the ultimate price. And for those families that have a loved one that did that, we honor you today and tomorrow and this weekend. You are not forgotten. Not today, not tomorrow, not next year. No greater love is there than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. John 15, verse 13. Darren Bailey's with us still. Darren, while we were on the chat on Facebook Live, the audience on the radio didn't get to hear, but we were talking about the brokenness of not only Illinois, but the brokenness of the Illinois Republican Party. Darren, it is time for a major shakedown and shakeout of everyone, every county, every precinct committee person, every Central States Committee person, the leader of the party. It is time we need leadership. Right now, the Dems are preparing for 24, 26, 28, and the Republican Party is sitting around moving the seats on the proverbial Titanic.
Nope, that's exactly right. We need a strong party. We need a bold and we have the message.
Yes.
The Republican Party has the message. It's going to save Illinois. It's going to save this nation. But then we put up people to execute and communicate this message, and it gets completely lost and people get confused. So, we need to be focusing on that message because we have the answers within the Republican platform. We need to be focused on finding men and women. Go to my Facebook page, and yesterday's post, I shared a speech by Chris Miller on the House floor on a more of this energy climate junk, and he did an
Well, they can also go to cities because I shared your
okay,
share.
Thank you.
I shared what you shared.
So there's people fighting for us, but with weak leadership, with terrible communication, then you frustrate the troops, and they don't show up to vote. That's what's happening. People want to, the election was stolen or whatever. Well, there's cheating in Illinois, but the cold, hard facts we must face is that people didn't vote. 45% of registered voters showed up to vote. So why is that? Why is that? Why was JB Pritzker, why we're, spent $35 million on mail-in voting and captured 650,000 votes of 800,000? Where is the message? And instead, Republicans want to sit around and play the blame game. Well, it's this guy's fault. That should have happened. No, get out. We need new leadership. So friends, listen, go to your county GOP board meetings. Find out when those are. Show up at them and demand change. Find out what precincts are empty. Find out how you can get involved and run as a precinct committee person, and then start working with others to, there are a handful of good counties out there that are doing the work that they need to be doing. But overall, we are a broken party. And we're not going to be able to reinvent the wheel. There's some people out there with some pretty neat plans of kind of rejuvenating the Republican message. But overall, we've got what we need. We're absent leadership.
In the chat room on Facebook Live, if you're joining us over there, you can see my daughter Hannah said my two favorite dudes. There you go. Look at the guy with the POW hat. Hey, Darren, you know what? It's been said that my vote doesn't matter. And you know what? I have to be honest. To some degree, you might be right. Your one vote, does it matter? Well, in the totality, maybe not. But I know one thing. If you want to go and contact your state legislator, your board member on the McLean County Board, and you're expecting them to get back with you, unfortunately, it's human nature. You're going to respond to people who are participating in the electoral process because you're a voter. And you can't help in those positions where they know they want to be talking to voters. So by not voting, you basically give up your ability to communicate with those people because their human nature will tell you. But your vote does count. And here on Memorial Day, if you don't believe your votes count, and I'm only borrowing this from my friend Darren Bailey, look into the eyes and to the hearts of those parents that had to bury their children that went overseas or here domestically and gave up their life for the sake of our national freedom. Did I say it well, Darren?
You did awesome. Thank you, friend. And that's what, and I know, David, people get tired of the same old, but if you go back to before the election, a month before, we were going around the same message all over the state. And that's what we were doing. Friends, get out to vote. You've got to vote. We know, even in Illinois, if we have a 60% turnout of registered voters, we can win elections. And how did AP know to call the election at 6:59? They knew two things. They knew there was only a 45% turnout, and they knew that JB Pritzker collected 650,000 of the 800,000 mail-in votes. They knew those two things, and they knew that was enough.
So, and they had 40 days to do it, my friend. Right. Hey, the music is playing in the background. I know it's going to bump us off soon. Darren, tell them how they can get in contact with you. Darren at BaileyForIllinois.com. Send me an email or go to the Facebook page at Darren Bailey, and we keep you updated, and we're going to be keep tabs on us. We're going to be doing some exciting things in the future. All right. No greater love is there than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend. Go out and celebrate this. Yes. What this weekend is about. Those who paid the ultimate price. We will be back next week. My friend Darren obviously is going to hang on Facebook with me after the hours for about a minute. I know, just give me a minute, Kevin. Kevin's in shock right now, but I just want Darren to be able to say hello to the people that have been commenting. But we'll do that on the other side. But thank you once again for always supporting the DPB show, David Paul Blumenshine, here at Cities 92.9. We'll be over really quick. Like I said, 30 seconds for Darren to say goodbye to everybody on the chat room. All right. It says we have plenty of commenters there, Darren. Just say goodbye to everyone that came on the chat today on the Facebook Live. Well, God bless you, and thank you so much. DPB, you're doing some amazing things. One of these days soon, we're going to do a live where we just answer questions. People can kind of like I used to do with the town halls. We're going to do that soon, but stay vigilant, stay bold, stay courageous. We can do this, but we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. We're going to have those tough conversations.
and but it's worth it. And today, tomorrow, we celebrate the men and women that definitely got out of their comfort zone and gave it all. So we owe that much to do everything that we can do to get this republic back under control.
Well, thank you, my friend. I know I want to give Kevin the opportunity to get show prep, but thank you. And you're right. Let's do that soon where we can answer the people's questions. We can either do it here on my platform or yours, which would get more traction because you've got a lot more friends than I do. Hey, thank you for everyone. We will see you next week. And Darren, you can always see him on Darren Bailey Daily on Facebook at his page on Facebook. So until next week, God bless.
God bless America.
That's right. God bless America. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.